If dieting is the hardest part of losing belly fat, getting stricter isn't the fix. Even if you are training every week, if your diet keeps going on and off, you'll stay stuck in that cycle forever. But getting below 15% body fat doesn't mean putting your whole life on hold either. I don't, neither do my clients. So here is 6 simple steps to keep losing fat around eating out, travel, and social events without constantly falling off and starting over again. So Monday to Thursday, you're locked in, training's done, your meals are sorted, everything is under control. Then when work throws a client dinner at you, or it's a birthday, some random trip, or a rough week, the whole thing falls apart. You already know how it's going to go the moment you check your calendar and you see that the week is just stacked up. If you're running a business or leading a team and is juggling a full plate of responsibility with your work, this is just how a normal week is for most guys. But you still show up and get it done. However, your diet doesn't have the same reliability. And it's not because you are an inconsistent person. It's because the diet plan was only ever built for a version of your week that doesn't actually exist. Home cooked meals every day, quiet evenings, empty calendars and all that. Not realistic. And the second something shows up unpredictable, the diet has no answer but to stop or start again next Monday, right? When life gets easy. The discipline you already have in other areas of your life is the same discipline you need to bring to this, but it's just never going to work if the diet itself wasn't designed to work for you in the first place. Instead of getting stricter on the food that you eat, the fix is building something that factors in the client dinners and the travel and the bad weeks, not something that only works when none of that shows up. And that means changing the food side and how that actually works for you, starting with the biggest mistake that almost every diet plan makes. Right now, if the way you're thinking about food is that chicken, rice, and broccoli is good and a burger or a restaurant meal is bad, that's just more punishment, because the second that something bad is eaten, it's going to feel like you've lost the game. So the key shift that you have to make is to stop thinking in good and bad foods and start thinking in a budget framework. Every day you have a set number of calories and a protein target to hit. And then what you spend is up to you. If you've got 2,000 calories a day, you can spend that on chicken and rice or a smoothie or a yogurt granola bowl, or you can spend some of it also on a burger or a chocolate bar. Once it's spent, it's spent. You know, like money, there's no version where you can go over and it just doesn't count. But there is a priority in this budget. Protein comes first. That's non-negotiable because it's what's going to protect the muscle that you're training for, and it's going to help you stay fuller for longer. At least 1.6 grams per kilo of your goal weight or 0.72 grams per pound of your goal weight. Carbs and fats can be flexible around your workout preferences or kind of whatever's happening that week, but this is not the same as eating whatever you want. That is what got you into the situation, right? Flexible means the framework holds even when your food in that framework changes. So once your calories and your protein are a set target, you don't have to keep fighting your foods. Now, yes, that means you can enjoy some ice cream, but not the entire freaking pint. But a target on its own isn't enough. You still need a structure that lets you hit this without thinking about it every single day. So how do you actually build this without doing the math on your phone before every single meal that you eat? Well, you pick a structure, whether it's 3 meals, 4 meals, 2 meals, whatever actually matches how you already eat that's going to work with your schedule. Then you give each part of the day a rough range, something like 400 to 500 calories for breakfast, 500 to 600 for lunch, 700 to 900 for dinner. Once that structure's there, you build a small bank of meals that fit those ranges. 2 different breakfasts that you might rotate, 3 lunches that you can stick to, 4 to 5 dinners that you like. You don't need 30 different meals. You just need enough variety that doesn't feel super boring and nothing more than that. And this structure makes it simple to adjust for random meals or different occasions. Because basically you're writing yourself a set of standard operating procedures for your diet. So you're not reinventing your diet every single day or every week. Once your structure's set, you're not deciding what to eat anymore. You're just picking from the list that you've already made, and it already works. It's kind of like a modular diet. And that is what is actually going to make it sustainable for you. It's not about more motivation. It's about less decision making. However, a normal Tuesday at home was never the hard part. What throws most guys off is the week where you do have the client dinner or the flights or the birthdays sitting on the calendar. So how do you approach that? Here's how you handle those random meals before it even happens. The problem is most guys wait until they're at the table to figure it out. And by then it's too late. You're just reacting to temptations and the social pressure around you. So instead, you want to plan it in earlier in the day. If the dinner is going to run high, pull calories from breakfast and lunch to make room for dinner. You know, skim 150 off breakfast, skim 150 off lunch, and then you've got an extra 300 calories for dinner to play with without eating less across the whole week. If you can, try and check the menu ahead of time online. You can even ask AI to do it for you, just to look through it and like roughly pick what you might be having. Log an estimate before you even sit down. Then you're just eating the meal, not making decisions about it, with a drink in your hand and a bread basket in front of you, right? The same logic applies to travel, flights, hotel breakfast, or eating out for a lot of meals. You're not improvising. You already know roughly what the day looks like. And look, remember, you can always do the hunger test. Am I so hungry that I would eat a can of raw red kidney beans right now? If not, don't force feed yourself. But if yes, well, get on your bike and go get some red kidney beans. Though, even when you plan all this perfectly, some days are still going to go over whether you notice it or not. So what happens then? Well, I'll give you the facts. If you're not tracking any of this, you're just guessing, which is where the on and off cycle keeps coming from. So tracking is genuinely difficult without a system, and most people just get it wrong without even knowing it. And there's a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine where a small group of people who were convinced they were eating around 1,200 calories a day were measured properly in a lab. And it turns out they were eating over 2,000 calories on average. They were missing far more than what they thought they were actually eating. And they were confident they were doing the right thing. So think about a burger. You know, is it one patty or two? Is it one slice of cheese or an extra one? Is it mayo, oil, fries, 2 beers? It's all this stuff that can be invisible if you're not actually logging it. And that gap is a massive difference between why the scale might not be moving and why you think it should be. I promise you, this is not complicated. It's like a 5-minute little admin task per day. For meals that you're making yourself, you just weigh it and log it properly. That's your most accurate data. You can use the restaurant's nutritional info, or if there isn't one, you can just ask AI for a rough estimate. And it's just a decent fallback plan. But don't treat it as 100% accurate. So once you are tracking properly, you actually know what is working and what needs to change week to week to keep you in this fat loss phase. The data is exactly what tells you how to handle the one thing that trips almost everyone up eventually, which is the blowout days. And here's how you need to tackle this. Here is how I would handle when a day goes over, like it's a work dinner that runs too long or a weekend that kind of gets away from you, whatever it is. The instinct is to just panic and feel like you've completely ruined everything and either stop tracking for the week or promise yourself that next Monday I'm going to make a fresh start. Both of those make it worse, not better. One high calorie day on its own barely moves the needle long term, right? Your body doesn't turn extra calories into fat immediately. 2.2 pounds or 1 kilo of pure fat is about 7,700 calories. I doubt you'd eat that much in one day. And that is not a personal challenge. So the problem isn't the day itself, it's what happens after if that surplus doesn't get accounted for. And then you just keep eating whatever. And by doing that, you could delay getting back into a fat loss phase for days, potentially weeks, because that's just how the math works. This is a black and white process. It's not magic. So instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, just course correct yourself. Bring the next 2 or 3 days budget down slightly, factor in what you overate, add a little bit more movement, and just accept that this week's deficit is going to be smaller than what you'd hoped for, or it could just be a maintenance week. The biggest mistake here is to pretend that it didn't happen. Mature adults take responsibility. This is what separates the guys who keep losing fat through a normal life and the guys who are struggling to diet despite exercising often. And by doing this properly, you stop being this guy who's on this on-off switch constantly, and you become someone who knows how to manage this, regardless of what the week is throwing at you. And that is exactly what I build with the clients inside my metabolic recomp method, the system built around your life, not a meal plan that you're doomed to eventually fail with. Tap the link below this video for details. But if you're like most guys who want to hit 15% body fat and below, but you don't know how long it really will take, go watch this video here on the Brutally Honest timeline to lose belly fat.